Jill, and I'm with the YMCA, and we're here today to talk about the YMCA Youth and Government Program. And I'm here with Payton and Cielo, who are two students who have taken part in the YMCA Youth and Government Program over the last year. So I want to open it up for you guys to introduce yourselves and to tell everyone a little bit about yourselves.
I'll start off. So I'm Cielo Camarena. I've been a part of the YMCA Youth and Government Program for the last 2 years. I go to Lincoln Park High School. I've been born and raised in the west side of Chicago. I'm very civically engaged. I started in my own club this year. It's called Civic Leaders of America. I'm really passionate about, just being involved in our whole governmental process. And that's why I really love being a part of youth and government.
Yes, I want to echo that. Hi, I'm Payton. I go to Lane Tech. This is my very first year doing youth in government, and I absolutely love it. I'm a policy debater. This is my fourth year doing this, and that just kind of launched my passion for civic engagement and my affiliation with the Y.
That's great. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about what youth in government is so they have an idea of the experience that you had this year?
Yeah, I can start off. So Youth in Government is the mock legislator program, which basically allows high school students to get involved with understanding firsthand the governmental process. So students have the opportunity to be a legislator, a lobbyist. They can run for different positions like governor, chief of staff. And it basically allows high school students to get the firsthand experience of our governmental process and how we as youth can become involved. Even if we're young, we can still learn about real laws that are being created and the real process.
Absolutely. And to take a little bit of a deeper dive into that, we got to create bills from our own kind of heads, right? And it was really, really cool process. So we got to take a bill all the way from the creation process to actually saying it on the Senate floor and committee. So youth and government is, of course, like a mock government thing, but it also teaches us a lot about how bills actually get passed and how to interact with legislators and your peers in order to get something done that you really want to see.
What interested you in the program? So, you had somebody from the YMCA tell you about it. What part of it? Because this was the first time, your first time, Cielo, this is your second year, but what was the thing that you were like, oh, I think I'm going to try this?
Actually, I just kind of stumbled across this, and I'm really happy that I did. But I got a pamphlet, and basically on the pamphlet, it was just talking about getting to be a legislator, and I thought that was super duper cool. Not gonna lie, I also saw something about a trip to Springfield, and I was like, okay, cool. But what actually kept me there and got me really engaged was our wonderful delegation leaders, Miss Edelblute and Mr. Shulensky. They were really, really passionate about this. And so the more that they talked and the more that I talked to Cielo and those who have been in the program for a longer time, they talked a lot about being civically engaged, being able to talk about a bill. And I got to pitch a bill that I was really interested in, centered around my identity as a Latina. And so as all of these different factors came together, I just got really, really interested in the Y, and I just kept with it.
So speaking of, do you two worked on the same bill? Do you just want to share what bill you brought forth in youth and government this year?
Yeah, so this year we proposed the Latina Education Bill, which basically, as we're both Latinas, it's really important to, I think I can speak for both of us, to our cultural identity to be represented. Unfortunately, currently in the Illinois school code, it's not required for Latin American history to be taught in public schools. And I can say personally for me, it has always been a disconnection in my school environment to not have the accessibility to learn about my own culture. It's a part of me. And that's why for me creating this bill, I heard when we were having our meetings, I heard Payton talking about it. And it was something that I'd never really, realized before, but when she pointed out, it was something that's really a necessity. So through that, we were able to propose that bill.
Exactly. I was just scrolling through the Illinois school code. I know I wanted to do something with education. That's always been super duper important to me. And I just saw that there were historical standards for Native American history, African American history, and most recently with the TEACH Act, Asian American history. And I thought that it was so interesting and quite frankly odd that we had nothing for Latina history, especially since that makes up like the second largest ethnic group. I think she did all the research on that. But it was super, like, it hit close to home. I'm mixed, so I'm African American, I'm Puerto Rican, and so to think that it's mandatory to just learn about one half of my identity is absolutely wild. And something that kind of set me on this path was in my world histories class, my teacher just kind of brushed off the topic of Latin American history as just too complicated. And I think that that's really hurtful rhetoric that shouldn't be allowed kind of in school, just to brush off any type of history. So I'm very proud that I got to work with Cielo and our other delegation member, Stephen, in order to pitch this bill and actually get it passed unanimously in both committee and on the Senate floor.
Great. And so what was your favorite part about youth in government?
I'm going to say everything that I learned about civic engagement. I know that that's such a broad statement, but that encapsulates my entire experience. There's no other way to put this in words, to be honest. Being able to represent my community through the Latina Education Act was uniquely impactful for me. But I would have to say, if I had like a favorite moment, speaking on the Senate floor, that was it's still wild to me that I did that. And I got to pitch this bill and just stand up in front of my peers and talk about it. And so I would say that my favorite part was actually getting to participate in the government process and actually start to understand how it works as an acting legislator.
Yeah, for me, I would say probably just having a community of, other teens, high schoolers who are able to come together and just have this passion for civic engagement and our whole governmental process. I didn't really have a community where I could talk about, being interested in, the legislative process. And through Youth in Government, I was able to not only meet other teens from Chicago, but throughout the state, which I think is so cool because there's people who come from rural backgrounds, there's people who come from city backgrounds, but we're all connected through this shared passion of being civically engaged. And I think it's incredible community.
That's really neat. So you both took part in programs that were sort of spin-offs from Youth in Government. So you were able to participate in different YMCA programs that you got to partake in, real advocacy efforts on behalf of the YMCA. So I'm going to start with Cielo since yours happened first. So if you want to talk a little bit about the National Youth Advocates Program that was sort of presented to you because of your work with YMCA Youth in Government.
Yeah, so last month I had the opportunity to go to the Capitol and stay in Washington, D.C. and represent the YMCA as a youth advocate. And it was just an incredible experience. For months, we would have Zoom calls, prepping, understanding the YMCA's legislative priorities and how we would pitch to members of Congress the importance of these programs funded through the YMCA. And I was able to meet so many kids from different states. It was so incredible to have, like I said, when I first joined the YMCA, meeting kids from throughout the state was incredible, but meeting kids throughout the country was like, it was an incredible opportunity. I mean, you're able to not only attend the actual Capitol, but also meet other kids your age who are incredibly engaged and they just have the same shared passion.
That's great. And then Payton, just recently, this week, in fact, you came to Springfield for the YMCA Youth Advocacy Academy. And so I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that experience.
Absolutely can. It's kind of like the sister program to what Cielo did. Basically, in the youth advocacy program, they chose 10 of us from throughout the state to come together in order to advocate on behalf of the Y, but not only that, our own legislative priorities. So first, we got to kind of look at what really mattered to us. And so for me, mental health advocacy has always been at the forefront of my mind. As I am an intern at a mental health company, and my friends have had conflicts with their mental health. And so this kind of gave me the basis to look into bills that were at the General Assembly and being pitched and be able to kind of advocate for those. So at Springfield this week, me and a partner, we got to go and make meetings with legislators and meet so many different really notable people, which was wild. And we got to pitch our bill ideas for mental health advocacy, but then we also got to support the Y and their asks for grants and to be added to the charitable donations list. I also I was invited to go to and stay an extra day for the YMCA's State Advocacy Day, and that was also really, really nice. I got to hear Senate President Don Harmon speak and talk about how important the Y is and how that's at the forefront of his mind when it comes to legislative priorities and actions. We also got to sit down with Speaker Welsh. Ms. Edelblute was there as well, and that was so cool. We got to sit down and talk to him, and he got to kind of see what youth really can do. And he is very, very supportive of the Y. So, that was like a conglomerate of a lot of things. But it's exactly what I did. Went down there and advocated for some bills, and it was really, really cool.
Very nice. And so what would you say is your most memorable experience with YMCA Youth in Government?
This one's a bit of a silly one, but I would say, like I said, there's such incredibly supporting community of youth, and every single time we go to Springfield, we have these fun nights where, after a long day of just pitching our bills, learning about other people's bills, we just get to have fun with one another and really connect with one another. And I think it's silly, but it really shows how strong of a community that the YMCA is able to provide. And that's just a memorable experience I had.
Yeah, no, I really like the fun nights as well. They have these inflatables. It's super cool. But I would say one of my most memorable ones, and I'm still not over this because this was literally Tuesday. I'm so sorry. But we got to pull one of our representatives off the floor. So Representative Lindsay LaPointe was one of the legislators we got to speak with, and she asked us to meet her in the back of the House chamber, and I didn't know that this existed, but there's like this hallway behind there, and we got to meet her and give her our one-pagers and kind of talk about mental health advocacy, since she sits on the chair of the mental health committee, and not only that, kind of created that setting for mental health advocacy within the Capitol, and we got to sit down and talk to her about that, and she was really, really passionate about that, but I didn't know that hallway existed, which was really cool. So I would say that was one of my most wild memories.
Yeah, she's a good friend of the YMCA. She represents the Irving Park YMCA.
So cool.
Yeah. So what's next for you two? So youth in government for the year. I know you both are thinking about coming back to it for next year, but what's next for you guys? Like, what are you thinking of in terms of next steps in your lives?
Yeah, so actually today I had a meeting with my counselor, and I was basically talking about, college planning. And if it wasn't for the YMCA's Youth in Government program, I don't think I would have been able to really know that I'm interested in considering law school and just my majoring in political science and international relations. I mean, prior to joining Youth in Government, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I had a passion for, civic engagement. It's something that my parents have always fostered in me. The importance of just, I can remember since being a kid going to our local alderman, talking about important issues and what the community needed. But really, Youth in Government was the thing that pushed me to not only gain confidence, but it also pushed me to, learn more about my interests. And I think that's an incredible thing that has allowed me to grow as an individual.
That's wonderful. Kind of in the same vein, Youth in Government taught me a lot. I'm going to be so for real. I did not know about the committee process. I didn't know about bills. I didn't know that I had a representative, which is kind of wild to be saying, but I didn't know that. And so having all of that knowledge now, I think that really emboldened me and be like, okay, yes, I can actually go and talk to my state legislator and make a meeting and actually see action be passed. So I think that in that vein, my next step is I really do think that the Latina Education Act has potential, and I think that it's something that's really important and near and dear to my heart. So I think I'm going to try to talk to legislators about actually remedying that situation. I was able to meet with Senator Guzman's LA and kind of try to get a meeting with her. So I think that I'm going to start talking to more legislators about getting that passed. And then moreover, I got into this program to be studying critical Black literature at the University of Maryland this summer. And the YMCA Youth in Government has given me a fresh perspective that to go into that program with, of more about like representation and politics and what that can look like and what that should look like. And so I think that as I go into that program, this opportunity and more that I've learned about politics will definitely help me a lot in that. And yeah.
So you are already working in the lingo. LA is a legislative assistant for anybody who might be wondering. So what would you say to somebody else, to another student who might be considering going into youth and government? How would you, what would you say to them about the program?
I would say to jump in. I would say jump in, and youth in government is really, really good at just kind of letting you find what you're interested in. I mean, there's so much support, but there's also so much to choose from, right? So you get to make your own bill. You get to figure out if you want to be a senator or representative. You get to have options like these programs that we were in. And then that kind of helped us find what we were interested in. So like, I really liked being a senator. I really liked getting to pitch the Latina Education Act. And so I would tell somebody who is interested in it to just jump in. You're going to learn a lot, regardless of if you want to go into politics or government or whatever. And just kind of know that you're going to find people that you're going to be friends with for a while. I think me and Cielo will continue to talk. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Payton. I think if I would tell anyone that, it's intimidating at first, I can't lie. There's all these like rules and like, just different things about our government that before I did not know.
You have to learn parliamentary procedure. Yeah.
Yeah, especially parliamentary procedure. But through this amazing community, you just grow as an individual in your knowledge. And even if, like what Payton was saying, even if you don't necessarily want to go in the future, you don't want to major in, I don't know, political science, it's still critical. It still provides such an amazing opportunity to, gain a new community, understand, growing your knowledge, and really just growing as an individual, I would say. I think it's great. At first I was intimidated, I can't lie, but I think it's really helped me as an individual to, just gain my knowledge overall.
Well, I'm definitely proud of the two of you and the way that you have really grown in your leadership. And I'm, certain that you now have a new set of tools to become the leaders of tomorrow and leaders currently. I know you're already leading in both of your schools. So is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up about youth and government?
Just a little bit. This is just going to be me talking about like how exciting this was. This was all just an amazing opportunity. I'm coming straight off of it this week, but every 5 minutes was kind of a pinch me moment. I never knew that I could have this much of a say or this much of, I don't know. I didn't know that legislators could actually listen to me and like hear what I had to say. And I could now look up bills on the ILGA website, and I knew who my representative was. And so this has just opened up a world of possibilities that I just will be forever grateful for.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Payton. And if you told me a year ago that I was at the Capitol, at our Capitol, I would have been like shocked. Like, that's such an incredible opportunity. And, I would have been intimidated. I can't lie. But it was just so cool. It's just so incredible to actually, meet with your members of Congress and actually, speak to them as a youth. I think often as a youth, we kind of feel like we're just not heard and, we don't have a seat at the table. But the reality is that programs like Youth in Government, they do allow for students and youth to really get involved. I think when such polarized times, it's really important that we get as much people involved with understanding, democracy, what at the core of our country. And that's why I'm so grateful for Youth in Government.
Well, thank you, Payton and Cielo. It's been great chatting with you. And thank you for everybody for your support of Youth in Government. Until next time, Thank you for joining us.